All right, I'm here with my friend John. It is a big privilege to be with you. I've been hanging out with you for a few days, and we have some other activity in the background, but that's all right. So, John, tell me what's been going on in your life.
So just I work with Youth with a Mission (YWAM)
Uh huh.
and the maritime branch of that YWAM ships, and I'm been pretty. My wife and I've been pretty mobile as of late, definitely. Even for a longer time than as of late, and but I do their overseas shipping to
Okay.
the various operating locations around the world, mainly in Papua New Guinea. And mainly, our it seems like God is drawing us. Our main base is going to be on the north side of Papua New Guinea in Madang,
Mm-hmm.
and so just I'm in charge of just exporting containers and pallets of cargo, and then out of whether it be the U.S. or we just had a container not too long ago that was refit in Germany with YWAM Germany,
Mm-hmm.
as a dental unit, a
Oh,
dental clinic.
so they actually make the container
Right.
a
Yep. So
dental
they
clinic.
redo the whole inside. You can't um you can't change the outside of the container at all,
Right.
because you don't want to compromise the integrity and the structure of the container for the shipping. But you can do whatever you want inside of it, basically.
But this isn't just dental equipment inside. This is an
It's a
actual clinic.
dental clinic. Yeah,
It's a
it's
dental
like
clinic
it's
inside
basically like going to the dentist office.
in
And
the shipping container.
in the shipping container, yeah.
Nice.
And then once you get it to wherever you want to go, then if you wanted to do a little bit more of a construct on it, as far as cutting out for windows,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, you could, once you knew where it was going to go and if it was going to be there.
And it wasn't going to move or be shipped
Right,
anymore.
right, exactly. But they're made to be self-contained and made to be enclosed. When you open up the doors in the back, the two container doors, you're going to have a false wall right there with
Mm-hmm.
another door that you can go into, and then you would have whatever wiring, cables and such, water, plumbing, that you would connect, whether it be the container being on board and you would use it on board the ship,
Mm-hmm.
or whether you took it off and used it shoreside.
Sure.
That way you can hook up the power, so you have power, you have water, and all that type of stuff, air conditioning, and so you have that false wall that is kind of like the back wall of the container instead. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So.
great. So, where is that particular dental clinic shipping container going to?
So it's going to be going to our largest ship, the YWAM Liberty, which
Mm-hmm.
is currently in dry dock in Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. And once it's out of dry dock, which is I believe next month or the end of the year, we're going to be traveling up to sailing up to the north side of to Madang, where we've made a basically long-term commitment that that's where we're going to be operating out of for at least the next 10 years.
Oh, wow.
We've just signed a 10-year agreement with a wharf. I believe it was owned by the Lutheran Church of Papua New Guinea,
Mm-hmm.
and they basically are giving it, or giving us the opportunity to run it for the next 10 years. And we're currently building out the warehouse, making it into a training center, and it's also where the Liberty ship is going to be stationed out of, where we're going to be reaching out to the region in and around Madang, the
Mm-hmm.
coastal communities, some of the islands offshore, and also we would be able to send teams up into the interior of the country also. And there's currently in that region that the Lord has led us to, there's 33 languages that still are Bibleless.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have also a container that we shipped not too long ago, oral Bible translation container, or OBT container, which we can orally translate. We can use, it's almost basically like a recording studio
Yes.
that we can use in order to, from an indigenous speaker, and then translate it to English, or from English into the indigenous language,
Sure.
as we try to figure out what's going on. And
Because that particular local language might not even be written at all.
right, exactly. And so anything that is, we're going to try to go from there into the written language.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then you're still going to have the written language, or the spoken language, and then with that, you could also broadcast that. You could give them audio.
They have a audio Bible in a language where there's not even it's never been written before. So they still have the whole audio.
So
Bible.
they would have the audio Bible, yeah. And so there's 33 languages that we have picked out in that region that we're committing to reaching them with the Word of God in their language.
John, that's incredible. So I was part of a YWAM outreach on the coastal plain of Colombia a few years ago. 2008, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think people think about an outreach and don't really understand how multifaceted the YWAM outreach can be. So when the Liberty goes somewhere, what kinds of outreaches you've mentioned too? Like there's dentistry and oral Bible translation. What give me a little window into some of the other outreach types?
Okay, and so these would also include possibly something that would be in a container also, or they might just be something outside in the community itself. And but we do have regular medical outreaches. Like I mentioned, we had the dental container that we've shipped over there from YWAM Germany, and what's important about that is there's only 8 full-time dentists within the country of Papua New Guinea for a country of around 8 million people, so it's like 1 dentist per million. There's a lot of other ones that come and go, but we're going to try to have more of an impact of something that's going to be permanent in that region. And so we have the dental clinic, we have the OBT clinic, the oral Bible translation clinic, like we talked about. We have a medical clinic. We have a tuberculosis testing clinic that's inside of a container. We have basically an OBGYN container, which is going to be used for women's health care. Anywhere from doing pregnancy testing and any other problems that a woman might experience, and all the way up to the point where, depending on the facilities, they would be able to. It's set up like a surgical suite, so they would be able to do the births. It's basically a birthing container also, but then it can also be used in any moment as a surgical suite for other surgeries also, depending on the doctors and the surgeons that we would have volunteering for us at that time. And it's set up basically like a surgical suite with the lights up above, and all of that. So yeah.
Wow.
And so those are the main ones for sure. And we have some other mobile clinics where we basically might go into a village and set up a mobile dental chair and do dentistry. I've even seen pictures of it being done under a tree in the shade.
Sure.
And also we have a lot of community engagement projects that go on alongside our medical outreaches, and so we're doing evangelism. Which includes song, dance, theater, things of that nature. We have groups that are gonna do community health education, and working with the children, and it just kind of as we see the needs of the community, we try to adjust our ability or our ability to meet certain needs depending on what the needs of the community are. And we're very excited, and it's a long-term commitment over there in Madang on the North Shore, and we're very excited about it, and it's just taking off right now. And we have outreaches going on right now, land-based ones apart from the ship. But once the ship's out of dry dock and over there's going to be ship and land-based ministries going on together. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Tell me a little bit about the ship, the Liberty, right?
Yeah, the Liberty. And so it's I don't know the exact measurements of it at the moment.
But it's not small.
No, it's not small. It's a large ship. It's actually got a helicopter landing port on the back of it.
Yeah.
To give you, and it used to be a research vessel for in the Southern Ocean, and it was donated to us, but it needed some work, and so we've been working on it. So when we received it, we did a little bit of work on it. This would have been back in 2017 about, and we were able to do some outreaches then, but after a certain amount of time, we felt that it was time to bring it in to do a long-term dry dock where we would update systems that needed updating mechanically, electronically, whatever it would be, to be able to operate with a smaller in between dry dock, but as far as long term for about the next 10 years, where we wouldn't really have to do too much to it. So we're really excited because it's been out of the water for a couple of years now, and then stuff from COVID kind of slowed down the process, and we found a couple other things that were wrong with it when we were going through the dry dock process, which has set us back a little bit. But we've made decisions to take a little bit of extra time now, to where in the long-term outlook, we can look 10 years down the road before we feel we'd have to do anything major again.
Nice.
Outside of maybe, getting it out of the water to do a little bit of cleaning and a little bit of maintenance here and there on it. But besides that, it's basically going to be in the water for the next 10 years.
John,
Yeah.
so tell me, if you could say a sentence or two to a listener who's considering saying, Jesus, I'm all in. I want to follow you on this big adventure that you're inviting me on. Not necessarily the same adventure as you, but just contemplating following Jesus into the unknown. What would you tell that person?
I would tell that person that just prayer, talk to people, share your vision or what you feel the Lord is speaking to you with people that you would trust to pray for you. There's a certain time to verbally share what's going on in your heart as the Holy Spirit leads, and there's times not to share it. And I think it's very important that you're not sharing it because you want people to think that, wow, look at what God's doing in my life or anything, but you're sharing it more because you're like, I think God's doing something in my life, and this is what I feel it is. And so you really want to be mindful and spirit led as far as the people that you share with. And that's and as God spoke and things happened, we also have a certain amount of that where when we speak about what's going on and we do it in God's will, I believe things happen in that also. And just to step out, don't look too much as far as how you're going to make it happen, but just really trust God, seek confirmation when you're in your quiet time, in your prayer time, in your Bible study time, and in your time as you spend with other people, and how conversations and the circumstances that are happening, look for confirmation in all those areas. And it may not be the financial confirmation or anything like that, but just confirmation of just go in that direction, and then just take the steps to do it. Yeah, but definitely listen to the Lord, and if it's a big step, he'll make sure that you know that that's the direction that he wants you to go.
John, it's been thank you. It's been a privilege and an honor to talk with you a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been great, Patrick. Thank you.
So I'm here with my friend Jeanette, and it is a big privilege to be with you. We've gotten to hang out together. The whole group of us have for the King's Fleet conference the last few days, But on the last day of it, Rachel and me, my wife Rachel, and you, and somebody else, we all got to go sailing. Tell me what it was like sailing, and has it been a while since you've been sailing, and what happens in your heart and in your mind when you go sailing?
I have been sailing. Last time I think it was 3 weeks ago in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
It was a regatta sailing, but we didn't. We didn't finish first, not to say it like that.
Okay.
But we always have the best catering. Afterwards, we sit on the boat and have like dinner together.
Oh, lovely.
But in Germany, the boats are getting out of the water. So I had the secret dream to go sailing in America here. I didn't tell anyone. And when you said, "Ooh, I can take you out sailing," I was like, yes, I wish that would happen. So yesterday we were on your boat, and the size is similar to the size of the boat I'm sailing in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like home. I just looked at the water. The trees were different. It was different to be on like a kind of narrow piece of water, like a river. For me, it seems like a river,
Right.
not open sea.
Right.
I sail in the Baltic Sea, so it's different. We have a bit more space. Don't have to do many turns, but
Right.
the wind was not so much. It was quite relaxing, and I just filled my tank.
Oh, good.
It was sunny, and I enjoyed being with you.
Oh, lovely. It was very enjoyable. Now, have you experienced God's presence on the water in a way that is, very filling for your heart before?
Yes, I had a trip when we went over the Baltic Sea. I had my daughter with me and 2 other girls, and we got into a storm right in the middle of the sea, so that we had 8 hours back, 8 hours in front of us, so we couldn't get out of the storm. And it was very heavy. One sail tore. The captain said, "You are steering now." I had these 3 little girls. They were vomiting. It was so terrible. And I was steering this boat, and he said, "I have to go to the front to get the sail out of the water. If the boat turns around, you have got 1 second to choose." And then this thought came, which of the girls do you save first?
Oh.
Your daughter or the ones you are responsible for? And inside of me, I was like, I don't take this decision. And I started to pray like never before. And we went through the storm. We reached the harbor. I didn't have to take this decision, but it was like, I don't know what I would have done if the boat had turned. I'm very thankful that it didn't turn. And the next day, the water was like yesterday, no wind. We went swimming from the boat. The girls were like, yeah, we go on. And I told the captain, I really have to forgive you that you started sailing with this weather forecast with 3 little girls. 2 years ago, the same captain, the same boat. I had 2 boys with me, 15-year-olds. And I told him that I really had to forgive him that he started sailing. So we did the story of Jesus and the disciples with the boat. And then we went out and we came into a storm. And my boys were hanging with their hands around the mast. Jesus, help us! And nothing happened. And we drove away to the next harbor. We wanted to do a night tour. And in the morning, the oil pump started to make problems. And in this situation, the same captain said, better be safe and call the Coast Guard. And he did, because we didn't know how long the oil pump would stay. The Coast Guard came, they threw a rope to our boat, and they waited and waited. And I was at the steering, and I saw this rope in the water coming closer and closer, and I knew what would happen. I knew when this boat, the Coast Guard boat, starts going, this rope will be around our rudder. Exactly that happened. The boat started and it was like boom, and the steering wheel turned around. No possibility to steer anymore. There was a national park nearby. We were with the wind in the direction to the beach. They had to turn around 2 times until they get us hooked up. When they started sidewards and put almost a hole in our deck. So we ended up being rescued by the Coast Guard, having a destroyed boat.
Oh.
And these boys were so cool. They said, the captain got off the boat as soon as we were in the harbor and ran into the forest and needed 1 hour to recover. He had really to forgive the Coast Guard, because in this situation he wanted to be safe. He called the Coast Guard,
Right.
and he had all the damage on his boat.
Oh, right.
So somebody came and helped us to repair the boat. And I told my 2 boys, I said, if you want, we can go home by train. And they said, no, we don't leave the captain in this situation. So everybody stayed, we repaired the boat, and the next day we were able to head off for the next destination, and
Oh,
we
wow.
celebrated the birthday of the boy, one of the boys on the boat. But God was with us, and He helped us, and the boys learned a long lesson, not to leave the team when things are difficult. The captain learned a lesson. He wanted to be safe this time, and the boat had a lot of problems. So that was what I experienced.
That's wonderful, Jeanette. You've been walking with God for a long time. What would you say to somebody who is sensing an invitation from God to go with God into the unknown? What would you say to someone like that?
I would say you think your life is like a frame, and you think your life is maybe okay and good, but I tell you something, there is bigger than your frame. There is a God in heaven who made you, and He has a bigger plan for your life. He has a future and a plan and a destination that is much bigger than the frame you have now. And if you are curious to find out what you are designed for, give your life to Jesus. And it will not be a boring life, I can tell you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jeanette.
You're welcome.
What a privilege to talk with you. All right, I'm here with my friend Tim. Tim, we've been hanging out for a little bit over Kingsfleet. But you have an amazing story. And while we're not going to dive into the whole thing or anything like that, but I want to just kind of parachute into your story. And take me to the moment when you were thinking, let's sell everything and move into an RV and travel around the country and follow Jesus.
Okay.
Take me to that moment.
Okay. Well, I guess we should say it wasn't necessarily a moment where that's what I was thinking of doing at all.
All right.
It was more of the Lord basically telling us that's what we're gonna do more than anything. I don't even know where to start with it.
Let's see. You told me you were really living your dream job.
Yes.
Had a sense of being with God.
Yes.
Doing charter fishing.
Yes.
And there was a fleet, right?
Not a fleet, but I had my primary boat. That was my daily functional boat.
Okay.
And I had managed to get my hands on an old 1976 Proline flatback.
Okay.
Which is like the iconic charter fishing boat of South Florida. And I'm like, this is the boat I've always wanted. And I was going to completely gut it and rebuild it into like the perfect charter boat. So it was in process of building.
Sure.
You don't know anything about building boats, though.
That's right. So, but you were, and you had a sense of doing that with God.
Yes, right? Yes. So from the beginning, I had said, I'm not going, this is what I want to do, but I want to do it in a way that glorifies God.
Right.
Yeah, so there was something rolling around in my head. This is something I would love to do, but I'm not going to start pursuing it until I know the Lord puts His stamp on, yes, this is what I want you to do. And it was, there you go. But one night, as the Lord often does, He wakes you in the middle of the night. And, I'm like, well, I think I should read the Bible, but I don't really know what to read. So I was like, well, why not just start at the very beginning?
Okay.
So I started reading in the beginning of Genesis, and you get to Genesis 1. You would think I would know the exact verse. It doesn't really matter. Basically, I got to day 5, and it says, God created all the fish of the sea, the birds of the air.
Right.
And it clicked. Instantly, I heard in my head, Fifth Day Adventures.
Wow.
And that's what I named the business. And I'm like, that's it. And I knew that's what God wanted me to do.
Awesome.
So, I started up fishing charters, named it Fifth Day Adventures, which the whole idea was it's a confusing name. So
a conversation starter.
It's a conversation starter. Everybody is like, they're like, what is that, like Fifth Day Adventist? I'm like, no, they're Seventh Day Adventists. It's Fifth Day Adventures. So, and then I would, it gave me a chance to witness to them and explain to them, on the fifth day of creations when God created all the fish. So when you're out with me fishing, we're literally on an adventure in God's creation.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it got people who weren't even believers to start thinking like, And then most believers don't even know, like like they've read it, but they don't know like the days of creation. Don't even think back on them and ponder on them and stuff. So
Yeah.
you even got people who are believers to reponder on that. So yeah, I felt like I was glorifying God. I was doing something I love, and really, really enjoying it. But as so many things do, like it becomes less about the glorifying and more about the doing.
Okay.
And I would say that's probably what started happening with the business, just out of normal life stuff.
Sure.
We had another baby, so I told Kim, "You're staying home with this one," which added that extra burden on me now. So I had to like make sure we were making enough money.
Yeah.
So I started concentrating more on the business aspects of running a business and less on the making it a testimony type deal.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So I think what I had said to you was that I was out scouting one day, which that's when you go out and you're just looking for fish. So I'm up in the tower of the boat and I'm just running the coastline looking for fish sitting along the mangroves and out on the flat and stuff. And I told the Lord, I'm actually content. Like I can't think of doing anything else. This is cool. I could do this the rest of my life. I don't need a retirement. I don't need like anything special. I could just take people out and do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And that's when he kind of poked me and said, well, what's the purpose behind it? And I knew that he was kind of saying, I didn't want to admit it at the time, but I knew he was kind of saying, you've been kind of glorifying yourself more than me lately. So yeah, which will really send your mind for a loop.
That's right. So that was essentially the beginning of a journey that took you into selling up.
Long journey.
A long journey.
Yeah, it was not fast at all, because that was probably December, January of 2019, 2020. That crossover time right in there.
Right.
And then he threw an extra curveball in there, because around January of 2020, I woke up from a dream, and in that dream, it's kind of weird, but my wife and I were literally on a beach. So I knew we were, which is normal. You live in Florida, there's beaches, right?
Right.
So we're literally on a beach. We have a motorhome with us on the beach. We didn't have a camper. And I'm standing on the beach, or my wife's standing on the beach holding a new baby. And we didn't have a new baby, so
right.
Yeah,
this is an interesting dream.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dream. And then I come out, and she's just standing there, and I look around, and there's thousands of people.
Oh, wow.
Like tens of thousands of people standing on the beach, but they're all looking at the water. And there's this massive, when I turn and look, there's this massive tidal wave just sitting there.
Wow.
It's not coming at the beach. It's not doing it. It's just sitting there like it's ready to do something. It's towering up, and everybody's just staring at it, captivated. And I looked at my wife and said, it's time to go. Like perfectly calm. And we got in a camper and left.
Wow.
And I woke up from that, and I was, I always tell people, I know it's a dream from the Lord when I wake up and I'm confused, because I'm not where I just was. If that makes sense?
Yes.
Like I consciously knew I was somewhere else, so I'm confused when I wake up and I'm back home, like instantly. So I knew that was a dream from the Lord, and I'm like, what's going on? Like you poked my heart just a couple weeks ago, and now you're showing me this.
So you ended up.
Go ahead.
So you ended up selling lots of stuff and getting a camper.
Yeah, well,
right? Or no?
After the dream.
Okay, yeah.
The COVID happened.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And so Florida did its like 1 month lockdown before it came back to its senses and opened back up.
Yeah.
So during that 1 month, though, we did some analyzing and we did some thinking, and we were renting our house, and we came to the realization that we could either sign a new lease, which we didn't want to do, but if something happened, even if we did sign a lease, our landlord could be like, we just need you out.
Yeah.
So we bought the camper as an insurance policy for a roof over our head. So it's like, we're simple people. We don't need anything fancy. If need be, we'll just move into the camper.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we could use it to do some traveling. So it had nothing to do with like wanting to step out into something. Yeah, nothing at all
to
at
do
the
with it
time.
all.
But the Lord, like, I could go all out in this, but He totally just like gave us the camper. It's like, the way it
amazing.
happened. It was real fast. And then we got to do like a 1 month trip because I was like, we got it. Let's just go. Like we already did the 1 month at home, locked inside. Let's just go have fun for a month before business picks back up. Yeah. And then after that, we got home from our 1 month trip, and it was kind of like get back to normal at that.
Yep.
Kim went back to work, and she's plugged in at work. We did when we were traveling, we had some discussions like, hey, maybe we could just start doing this, 6 months on, 6 months off kind of thing. And that's about all it ever amounted to. We got back, she got back to work, she's like, boom, and she's very much in the moment, like, this is what I'm doing. Nothing else needs to be thought about, where I'm always thinking about the next step.
Yep.
And the step after that, and sometimes 12 steps down the road. That's just my brain.
Sure.
And so I can't stop thinking about, maybe we're going to do this 6 months on, 6 months off thing,
Right.
And so I'm just perplexing about that, trying to get this boat built. I really wanted to get it built by the next charter season, but I would literally go downstairs, because it was in our carport. I would go downstairs and I would just sit there and look at it. I could not motivate myself to actually work on this boat. And I'm like, it makes no sense. I have the money, I have the materials, it's there. Why am I not working on this? And I would do like a few steps here and there, and then lose interest for a while. And I'm like, why don't I want to work on this? That boat was my dream boat,
Right.
What's going on, And I think the Lord was pulling me away from it, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Pulling your heart away from it.
Right. I never felt like the stamp of yes, do it.
Sure.
So, from there, we went to a retreat kind of deal, and it wasn't really, I don't know how to call it, like just a conference type deal kind of thing again,
Sure.
a weekend long thing. And it was during that, like, Kim and I both kind of felt a stamp, like, you guys need to just go. You need to just like let everything go and go.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we're on our way home from that. Like, simultaneously, we both kind of looked at each other and we're like, we think we need to go. And I'm, teary-eyed, I think so too. And
Sure.
not having a clue where or to what. We just knew it's like, let go and go. But so at this time, I'm still thinking like 6 months on, 6 months off. I'm like, okay. But I'm like, where do I put it all then?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm in prayer with the Lord. We're driving home, and I'm just utterly silent. So Kim knew something was going on. Yeah. And so she's just letting me maul, I guess. Because normally she doesn't do that. She's talk. But there's like silence. So she obviously knew something was going on in my head. Yeah. And finally, after like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, I work up the energy to just be like, we gotta sell the boats. And she's not even emotional. She's like, okay.
Oh, we gotta sell the boats.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And she knew that meant like, we're not doing 6 months on, 6 months off, that we're just going. And leaving nothing behind.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Sure.
And so yeah, I was talking to the Lord, and I'm just like, what do I do with these boats? Is that really what you want me to do? And the answer I got was, I heard the names Ananias and Sapphira, and just the word no backup plan. And that scripture is normally in the context of like they lied.
Oh, Ananias and Sapphira. Yeah.
Sapphira. Yeah. So yeah, normally it's preached under the context of they lied about their money. But I knew the Lord was telling me that it was their heart.
They had a backup plan.
They had a backup plan, and
that's
that's
huge.
what it was. They weren't fully giving themselves to the Lord. They were still kind of like, well, if this doesn't work out, then I still have this over there. And that's a pretty...
And they wanted to appear like they were fully God's.
Yes.
Like appear like they were fully in and no backup plan.
Yes.
But,
so
but still having one.
and I think even at that moment, it was still like a choice.
Yeah.
Like you can do it your way, but my way's better. Yeah.
So So take me in, like, how long was the season of traveling across the country, serving God, following the Holy Spirit over the country in your camper?
Yeah. So the moment of release, that moment whenever the Lord gave me like the Ananias and Sapphira,
Mm-hmm.
was February a year later. So now we're in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that much prayer,
Right.
and like really making sure, is this what you want, Lord? It was like
Right.
not an emotional, yeah, let's go, kind of thing. From that moment on, we started just selling everything, which is miracle after miracle after miracle, like laying my hands on things and saying, who needs this, Lord? Because I had an extra pickup truck that I used for the business.
Right.
Literally hearing the words, Alex needs this truck.
Mm.
And so I went to my buddy Alex repeatedly, dude, you need this truck, don't you? And no, I don't need it. No, I don't need it. No. And he's like, stop asking me to buy your truck. I'm like, okay, fine. 6:30 in the morning, one Saturday morning, I get a text message. I heard you have a truck for sale. What is it? Name on my phone, Alex.
Alex.
But it
Oh,
was the other Alex
Other
that I wasn't
Alex.
even thinking about. He bought it that day. Like,
that's
no
so
questions
funny.
asked. Bought it with cash. I'm like, okay, the Lord was right. I was wrong. Wrong Alex.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Our small group prayed about the boat, that the right people would come and buy the boat. 6:30 in the morning, I woke up to a text the next day on my phone with a picture of a boat, the exact same boat as mine, with somebody asking me, well, how do these boats ride? I'm thinking about buying one.
Oh,
I replied back with a picture of mine saying they ride fantastic. This one's for sale. Then he was like, what? You're selling your boat? And
oh man.
took him out for a ride. He bought the boat. No questions asked, exactly what I was asking for. And
man.
it's just things like that don't just happen.
Amazing.
So then come June, after getting rid of everything, selling everything, except for, what we felt was necessary to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
We left in the camper. So it was June of 2021 we left in the camper and started traveling. And we circled the country twice from in a year and a half, basically, just going to different areas that the Lord led us to and ministering, being his hands and feet where he took us. Just following his lead and hoping that we're hearing properly, but also trusting that, in our mistakes, he still uses us.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge, Tim. So, what you said you like to think about the next step.
Yes.
What are you dreaming of? So let's remove like the difficulties of logistical life for a minute. What would be awesome? Like, what would be awesome to do with you and your family?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm connected to the water, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
Being a captain and like my life revolving around the water in like so many different ways. Yeah, and that's my place of peace. I've definitely realized that now that we've circled back to Florida, and the Lord's planted us there for a little while, and I've been able to get back on the water after a 2-year hiatus, and not realizing that was my quiet place.
Yeah.
But so I really didn't have that for that 2 years, and I was a little broken.
Yeah.
That's hard to admit.
Yeah.
Just got to breathe through it.
That's right.
But so getting out there on the water was just like beyond energizing. That was my quiet place, like every day. When that's your job and you're connected to what is your quiet place. And I would get up every day, prep for my charters, go catch bait, and then I could just sit there, sit on the boat, and just take it in. And get a little bit of time, usually with the Lord. Sometimes I was running late, but and just say nothing and just listen. That's huge. Like that's my favorite way to pray, is to say nothing and just listen. Yeah.
Oh, Beautiful.
So yeah, you actually asked me yesterday if I'm craving my quiet time or whatever, or my alone time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I guess is the answer. Oh man.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes. But I love my time with my family too. Like,
Yeah.
crave that just as much.
Hey Tim, one last thing. If you met somebody and it was somebody who was contemplating, at the brink of like, hey, should I say yes? I've got this invitation from Jesus. It feels like God's drawing me into something, but it's a big unknown and it feels risky. What would you tell that person?
Without being mean?
Yeah, without being mean. That's right.
Like, you have there isn't a choice in that situation.
There's not.
You're choosing yourself or him. I mean,
Sure.
for real.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to put you somewhere that's not the best place for you at that time, So go wherever he's telling you to go. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it for sure.
Tim, thank you so much. What a gift to talk with you. What a privilege.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I'm here with Kim. We've been hanging out, you and your family,
Yep.
at the Kingsfleet Conference, which has been a huge blessing to me over the last few days. And even though we have a little bit of background noise with wonderful people hanging out here and enjoying fellowship around us, I want to ask you something. I just heard from Tim, your husband, about the transition of life from really living a dream and business with the charter fishing, selling up, having a big yard sale, moving into a camper, and saying, all right, Lord, where are we going? And then a rather long season of circling the United States at least a couple times, and seeking to be really Spirit-led in that. Now, I want to ask you, what was it like? Was there a moment when you thought, what did we do? So when you think about selling up and moving in, did it feel like this is a sacrifice, or did it feel like this is freedom, or a mix of both?
I think it was a mix of both for me. It was definitely a tug of war for me. We're both people, but I get deeply connected to people very quickly. And so for being where we were for 8 years, deeply connected in our church, deeply connected in ministry there, in the school that I was helping to lay a foundation, it was a tug of war because it was releasing that I knew, the normal, the comfortable, all of the people that we had poured into for so many years, and having to walk away from that in a sense, but the adventure around the corner for the freedom of being able to release everything to the Lord, surrender it all, and just know that He had us. Like, we knew that He had us. We knew that He would provide. We knew that He would lead us. We knew that that He was going to be faithful. And so we were excited about what that looked like and had no idea what was around the corner,
So doing that, doing that as a single person, or even as like a married couple, is one thing, but having children and having a family and saying, Lord, I'm trusting you for them too, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And so for us, we had gotten just in different places, we'd gotten a piece of a vision or a piece of a dream.
Sure.
That kind of helped us in that. Like, the Lord was so faithful in that as well, as a mama heart of having my kids, leave their school, leave their church family, and not know if they were going to be connected to, or how they would be connected to, the rest of the body of Christ across the nation, or new people that don't even know the Lord. Like, what does that look like? And Tim had a dream, and it involved a wave. And the wave was monstrous, huge, like tsunami, greater than like a tsunami like wave. And we were on the beach with a camper behind us. And this was before we even had our camper. And it was actually his parents' camper that was behind us. And the dream was just all these people were mesmerized by this wave that was coming on shore. And he was like, kind of like looking at it, being like, what's everybody mesmerized by? And turned and looked at me and was like, we have to get in the camper and go. And then the next piece of the vision was us on the bow of a boat, and like the boat breaking the water, and it creating a wave behind us. And so we knew that we had to go ahead and do this and be obedient for the sake of our kids and their own faith. And so because the kids were the wave is what we saw. The next generation was going to be the wave.
Sure.
And so if we weren't that bow breaking that water, the wave wouldn't be able to be created. And so we just felt like that was our role in and stepping out and obedient. So we held on to that, you know, in those times of like, okay, Lord, like our kids and, but we're glad we did.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome, Kim. So after I pushed stop on the record button in my conversation with Tim, I asked him, what should I ask him? And he said, you need to ask her about Idaho. He said, what happened in Idaho? So what happened in Idaho?
Okay, so yeah, Idaho was huge. We had gotten, we had been a part of like a tent meeting kind of conference-like environment where I was just going up supporting a friend in prayer. She wanted prayer. So I went up with her just to support her. And these ladies were praying for her. Afterwards, they look at me and say, hey, do you need prayer? This was before we even left in the camper. We knew we were going, but we didn't know where. So it was a couple months before we actually pulled out. And so I said, of course, I always want prayer. And I said, we need direction. We just want clarity, direction. Where's the Lord sending us? And so they prayed for me. And afterwards, one of the girls says, okay, not while we were praying, but while you're speaking about direction, she said, Idaho popped into my head.
Oh.
And I said, okay. I mean, I believe the Lord speaks to his people and through his people. And but she was clear to make sure that it wasn't during prayer that she heard this because she was unsure. And so I said, okay. And I literally laughed out loud because we were in Southwest Florida and Idaho is like clear across the nation. I was like, okay. So for the next couple months as we're preparing to leave, I'm like, really, Lord, Idaho? I'm like, okay, I'm praying about this. And things about Idaho would pop up. Idaho is not a common vocabulary word in Florida, right? And so I was like, okay, Lord, are you like, you're speaking, you're leading, you're pricking my heart for this. Is this really where we're going? And so we had traveled a little bit a few months before that, and we got to Kentucky, and we were like, well, let's take the girls to the Ark and Creation Museum. We said we would do that, and let's sit and just wait on the Lord and see, are we supposed to go to Idaho?
Okay.
And so we waited for a little while. It didn't get any clear confirmation. There was a divine appointment in Kentucky, but didn't have anything to do with Idaho. And Tim looked at me and said, if we don't do Idaho now, we're going to have to wait because of the weather season.
Okay.
And I said, I'm not waiting a year to see what the Lord has for us in Idaho. And he said, let's go. And so the Lord had divine appointments for us across the nation as we went to Idaho. And it was just like his sweet spirit and knowing our hearts and just being like, keep coming, just keep coming, just keep coming. So we crossed the border into Idaho. There's so much in between that. But we crossed the border in Idaho. We stayed in 3 different places over the course of 3 weeks and nothing. Not one thing from the Lord of like, this is why you're here, which was his design too, because I was wrestling with him about just be still.
Yeah.
Be still,
Yep.
Enjoy this time with your family, enjoy what I'm doing in you, enjoy the creation around you, like just enjoy me, enjoy your family, like just be still, don't be anxious for what is to come or, you're excited, but like, it was more of a like, Lord, what are you doing? What are we doing here? And he was just be still. Okay. So then week 3 comes and we had connected with some people in South Dakota that we were going to cross paths with in Idaho, we thought. And so that came to fruition and we were getting ready to go spend a week with them, new friends, and at RV park. And we stopped in this little town called Blackfoot. And while we're in that town, we were just staying at the Idaho Potato Museum for a one night stopover. And I checked my Facebook Messenger that morning and I had a message from a friend. She said, hey, I just got your newsletter. I know you sent it out like a week or so ago, but it must have gone to my spam. It didn't catch it, but I just read it today. So thank you for sharing. By the way, where are you in Idaho? And I said, we're in this little town of Blackfoot. We're at the Idaho Potato Museum, and we're getting ready to go up to Idaho Falls. And she goes, my sister lives in Blackfoot.
Hey.
I said, really? And she's like, yes, because her and her husband are missionaries in Japan.
Okay.
So full circle, her and her husband grew up in Kentucky. I met her and her husband in Florida, did youth with them for many years at our home church. They had since been in Japan for 2 years on mission. And she's the one messaging me that her sister lives in Idaho.
Sure.
And I'm like, what? Not just Idaho, but Blackfoot, where we're at.
Right.
Little town. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. So she goes, oh, they've been in some housing crisis with people moving over from California, hard to find land property. They have this property, but they were going to build, can't do it, all the building issues. So now their backup plan is live in this camper to get this kind of a dilapidated mobile home up to caliber of being able to live in it for winter because of the winters.
Sure.
And they're just so discouraged. It would be awesome if you could go encourage them and just spend some time with them. And I was like, absolutely. You need to give me your sister's number. So as we talk a little bit further, I said, we got to go to Idaho Falls first, but then we'll circle back to your sister. And so she continues to tell us about their discouragement and all the things they have to get done on this mobile home in the next month or so to be prepared to enter it for winter.
Sure.
They can't winter in the camper. And so I was reading all this to Tim and we both looked at each other. We're like, this is why we're in Idaho. This is why. Like, he has prepared us. We had a home ourselves in South Carolina that we had, done from the bottom up. Just had the skill set, the heart to just serve people. And so I immediately contacted her sister. I was like, you don't know me. Your sister just gave me your number. And she's like, come for dinner. I'm like, you don't understand. Yes, we're going to come for dinner. But like, God sent us to be your hands and feet. And she was, of course, beside herself. They had 3 kids, our age. Like, the Lord couldn't have connected us any tighter. I mean, the Holy Spirit was just amazing. So we went for a week to Idaho Falls to fellowship with those other friends. And when we circled back onto Stacy and Josh are their names, onto their property, it's like we pulled up our camper right onto their property, and the Lord just interwoven our hearts, like immediately, supernaturally. We became the best of friends. We talk like to this day, every other day. We talk through different apps and stuff, and so yeah, we were there for 7.5 weeks. Perfect strangers, 7.5 weeks. Didn't know where they were at with the Lord, but definitely strong believers. And it was just living in community, being hands, and just being the church. So. Yeah, that was our Idaho story. And Stacy and I, we had a conversation in the car, because we would do life together. We planned meals together. We got to meet daily, break bread daily, and that was huge for us. Like, we got to experience this that we would read in scripture. And Stacy and I were on our way to get a Walmart order. And she goes, Kim, she goes, I know that, she goes, I don't get on Facebook often. She goes, but I know I posted on Facebook just prayer warriors. I needed prayer warriors around us, holding us up in this time of just desperation for housing. She goes, I wonder when I did that. I said, well, I know when that girl spoke Idaho to me. I said, let me look at it. And I literally pulled up the Facebook. And Patrick, I can't make it up. Like, it was, when I saw her Facebook page and read the prayer, I couldn't but weep. I'm like, God, you are in the details. Like, when Stacy called out for those prayer warriors, you were down in Southwest Florida, the Holy Spirit, that girl spoke Idaho the same exact day, not a day off, not a week off, the same exact day that she posted that prayer request was the day that Idaho was spoken to me. I'm like, you can't make that up, So just another sweet cherry on the top for the situation. Yeah, for the scenario.
Amazing, Kim, amazing.
Yeah.
So you've told, when I was eating lunch with you guys, you all mentioned that the Lord's brought you in your camper back to Florida and kind of rooted you back into some of those places, but it still feels like you're in a holding pattern maybe, or in there's a sense of we're going somewhere, but not right now. There's still more preparation or whatever has to happen. What do you think? I guess, how do I want to word this? This is a crazy way to word it. If you were God, what would be the next step for Tim and Kim and their family and their girls?
That's a hard question
I know,
to answer off the cuff.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for being gracious with it.
Yeah. I think we're in a season. My word lately has been balance. Is to find balance in the midst of any situation, any circumstance.
Yep.
And so we've had a lot of we've been able to do ministry so closely together as a marriage as well as a family. And so we're in a different season right now. So I think to grab a hold of, just to teach us how to maintain that balance, and continuing to keep the first thing first, no matter what circumstance, no matter what situation you're in. I think that's what I do believe that's what the Lord's working in us and out of us and through us and all the things, as he continues to use us where we're at, but continues to work on our hearts as well. Because he's grown us so much exponentially, even when we were in Florida and then on the road together, that there's still more growth that he needs to do before he can launch us again.
For whatever the launching
yeah,
is
whatever
too.
that looks like, So I think he's teaching us, balance and perseverance, and prioritizing the right things in the midst of all the noise around you, because that's kind of what we feel like right now is it's good. Like there's good noise, right? But it is definitely difficult, more difficult than when you're on the road and you have all the time to dig into the word and to grow deep in all the things that the Lord's showing you. And when you have extra noise, I think the Lord is teaching us that. I really do feel like we need to grab a hold of that tighter.
Do you have an inkling of what the future launching might involve?
I I feel like I don't know if it's my heart's desire, right? But we know the Lord gives us the desires of our heart. But I don't believe that it's going to look like it did in the camper. I don't believe it's going to be, okay, you as a family unit are going to go out and yes, Holy Spirit led. I'm going to connect you to all these people and do life with people. I think there's going to be a piece of that, but I believe we're going to be doing it with others. I believe we're going to be launched with others is what I really feel and sense, or what I want in my heart.
Right.
Because we've tasted it. Like we've tasted doing life and community with each other, with other families. And there's a piece that I know the Lord was stirring, this new thing in me in South Dakota. I had such a desire we have really close friends that were also traveling in their camper. And I was like, Lord, when are you going to call us to go together? When are you going to call us to travel together? This caravan around the nation, and just being able to minister together, because we had such diverse gifts and talents that the Lord had given us between the four of us, Tim and myself and this other couple. And he didn't say that, And so we were in South Dakota for a good chunk of time, and they were kind of in a holding pattern. We were in a holding pattern. Where are we going? And we're like, we're going together. Are we going together? And the Lord is like, no. You're not. And so, but being able to see his divine just sovereignty in that, and why not? But I do believe that for this and what he may be calling us to next, that it will be with others. Because I felt like the Lord said, you and Tim are two people, individuals, but man, when I brought you together under my marriage covenant to become one. And so you are one unit. Your family is one unit. And so just as Jesus sent them out 2 by 2, I felt like the Lord was just like, okay, you're going to have another or group that are going to go out together and do what I'm going to call you to do. So again, I don't know if that's my heart's desire. I know that the Lord designed us to work together and be the church together. But there's just something special about walking in a mission with another family or multiple families that have the same heart and passion for the lost, for discipleship, and just to do it together, because there's so many gifts and talents that come together to be the church, so that's my heart.
That's your heart.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
Kim, if you could say a couple sentences, just one or two things, to a person who is considering saying yes to Jesus on his invitation into the unknown, even if it feels a little risky, what would you tell that person?
Jump.
Jump.
I would say jump with no holdback. No backup plan, just jump, because he's faithful and there's nothing like it. You get to see the power of God, the faithfulness of God, the providence of God, like all of it, just to trust him and to really, truly, like, even just have a moment of feeling what that full surrender feels like and know he's got you. It's like, no, jump. Like, you will not regret it. Not regret it. There's no better life. Tim and I've talked a lot about, like, there's no going back. Once you've tasted and seen, right? That's scripture. Taste and see that the Lord is good. It's like, you don't want to go back, and to whatever back means, for everybody, it's different, but, no, jump, because you won't regret it.
Kim, what a privilege to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick.